friends, welcome to the next episode of Tom and Dave Discover .vvm. My name is Tom.
And my name is Dave. Hello.
So today, what we will be talking about...
One of our favorite topics, date time pickers.
Okay, it's a really amazing topic because if you look on Wikipedia on a page that is called Gregorian calendar, which explains how our calendar works and what was the history and where it started, it's amazing, like 2000 years of chaos.
Yes.
Another chaos and even more chaos. And interestingly enough, there were people in the history who tried to make calendar more sane, and they were French. That's also a little bit like unexpected. And during the French Revolution, they tried to create a new calendar that would use number 10 as a basis of everything. So there were 10 months in a year. There are like 3 weeks in a month. Each week had 10 days, and it was amazing. The same, there were decimal clock. So they had 10 hours. 1 hour had 100 minutes, and 1 minute had 100 seconds. Like, I don't see a problem in that.
Okay, that's maybe taking it too far.
Yeah. But like, this didn't work well because I guess the creator was put on guillotine or something like that. So the problem is that date and time is a very complex area. And as you will see, we have multiple ways how to approach it in .vvm. None of them is 100% complete that would handle all the situations, and it's a lot of fun. So this episode will be about date time pickers.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
We've implemented for multiple parts of .vvm for the different packages, multiple different ways to basically represent date and time. So we're gonna take a look at basically all of them and see how we made those decisions, and eventually, in our newest package, Tailwind, why we decided to not bother at all.
We actually bothered and put there the date picker. We thought that using some external library where someone else did the difficult job was a good idea. Like so far, we will have to evaluate on that. But if you anytime if you wonder why date time pickers are so broken in .vvm, like look at other frameworks, I guess the situation there is very similar.
Yes.
And it's because date and time are cursed. Yeah. So let's start with the simple thing. HTML.
Yeah.
HTML has an input element, and text box in .vvm is basically a wrapper over input element. So and there is input type date. So like if you use text box, which is a little bit unintuitive, it could be input, but like there was at the beginning when we started with .vvm, there was always a problem of if we shall stick to HTML terminology or to what .NET people are used to, which is text box. So we chose text box, and maybe we regret it ever since. But it's a text box, but it's a wrapper over input. And you can say a type date, which allows you to bind date time values to the text property. Actually, the text property is of type object. It's not a string.
Yeah.
And that's why it works. And you can use the native way how browsers allow the users to work with date. So this is the basic HTML date picker. This is time picker, and there are more types. There is date time, but it didn't make much sense, so we implemented only date time local, which means that there will be no time zone conversions. As you type whatever you type, it would be like represented as a date in your local time zone. Yeah. And we will get back to that because it's when it comes to time zone, it gets crazy complicated, but like we are here. And because there is a convention that a lot of people want to have UTC on the server, but you don't know in which time zone the client who is looking at the page is. So if you want to implement a chat, for example, the date and time, the the moment when the message was created, it's some kind of like timestamp, just point in the time. So these kind of data makes sense to store in UTC. So on the server, you have it in UTC. And if you want to show it to the user in their own time zone, we added an extension method to browser local time. And this will do the conversion only in the JavaScript. If you would use server rendering, it does nothing. It keeps UTC, because on the server you don't know what is the time zone of your client, and the output could be cached, so like it's complicated. But on the client, this works, and it translates the date to the local time zone of the user. And what is special on this function, and you didn't know that,
didn't know that.
This function is actually writable. It's weird that you would be able to assign to a result of a function. You can imagine that function returns a reference to some value, something like that. But because on the JavaScript side, DotVVM works with knockout observables, this function returns observable, which is computed from this value, but it's actually writable. So if the text box control writes in this observable, we can do the opposite conversion and update this property. So if you bind it like this, it will work both ways. It's a two-way data binding. So let's see how the page looks like. And
and that's truly what basically DotVVM enables us to do, to bind date time to simple text box. Because that's one of the great features about our datetime picker, is that it translates the layer between the .NET object and the input, which basically just renders text.
So you can see it's input type date, and DotVVM doesn't ship with datetime picker that would be powered by some JavaScript because and CSS styles, because components in .vvm, they usually don't come with any styling. They use just native HTML things in HTML, and you are supposed to style it as you need it. So that's why we don't have any advanced pickers in the framework, not because we don't want to give it for free, but because then we would have to make a decision what JavaScript library we would use, how the CSS would look like, and if we are giving CSS for our custom date picker to render these pop-ups and these things, then we should probably have CSS for other controls as well. So like we decided to have no CSS in .vvm, and that's why we don't have even custom date picker. So we stick what browser allows us to do, and it works quite well on mobile actually. These pickers are quite nicely optimized on mobile phones, so selecting date and time is fine. But if you use these native HTML pickers, then what you probably see sooner or later would be complaints from the users. But can you make these corners round, or like can you change colors here? Can you render something custom to these dates? Recently we had a requirement, could you show the number of the week in these rows of this calendar? So like we said like no, because like this is a browser controlled component, and we have no way to, like, even if the application would be in other language but your system is in English, then the component, this UI, would be in your system language, not in the application language. So that looks a little bit weird. At least I think in the latest browser versions, it respects the dark theme or light theme. So at least that, but you don't have many options how to customize that. Same applies to a time picker. Like this is an experience which you have. Again, this AMPM, it depends on the culture. In Czech, for example, we don't use that. We don't know what this means. We have 24 hours. Yeah, why not? Like,
have you actually seen the new Apple keynote where they talked about drop-downs?
I didn't see it.
They actually are pushing against this idea of non-stylable native controls and are actually pushing for having Safari be able to render drop-downs with icons and with styling and render them as grids.
Okay.
So maybe we'll actually see a native after like 10 years of checking a native implementation of having some kind of styling with it.
Yeah.
But right now it's not very much. Yeah.
The problem of HTML is that this standard is quite slow in adoption of new features. I remember that even at times of jQuery before HTML5, which introduced input type date, we already needed something to pick date, and HTML didn't have answer to that. So everybody implemented their own libraries, their own pickers. Then came these components, but like they didn't listen much to what application developers needed. And even today, like 20 years after I needed first date picker, it's there, but it still doesn't. It's cannot be customized much. So like it's. I think that some things in HTML are very nicely thought through and created, but like this is lacking a lot of features that. And I understand that like there are a lot of requirements for accessibility and these things that are not obvious at the first sight, but still.
And creating a global standard that millions of pages have to follow, and being able to support all of them, it's really complex.
Yeah, I know it's a complex task, but on the other hand, I would expect that it could be because CSS is also really complex, and I think it evolves much quicker than the base HTML standard. Yeah, so just like that. Okay, so here is the date time, and here is the date time with the local browser local time conversion. So 5:52, that is when this page was loaded, which was shortly before the stream, or like not maybe.
And that's our time zone.
Yeah.
Well,
no. This is correct actually, because now it's 5:13 p.m.
Yeah.
But I'm putting date time now and not UTC now to that property, so it treats local time as UTC and shifts it by 2 hours. Yeah, that's why it's confusing. It doesn't correspond to our time zone, but the offset of 2 hours is correct.
Yeah.
However, it just treats the value as it would be in UTC. The difference here is that in this, when I look back to the code, if you just have date time and display it normally, we struggled a lot how .vvm should interpret the date, because the date time on C#, it has the kind property, which can be local, UTC, or unknown. Unknown is the most tricky because you don't know what's going on. And we would have to choose if unknown means UTC or local. We would have to make this decision. And also there is a lot of differences. If you load data from a database, sometimes the kind is like unspecified or unknown. Sometimes it's UTC. It's messy, and we found a lot of use cases where it behaved like not in a not intuitive way. It wasn't clear what's going on behind. So we settled on custom serialization of date in a way that all the numbers that the user can see in date time on the server, if you ask for hour, minute, second, they will stay as they are. And the user will see the same numbers if you send the date time to the .vvm page. So we don't look at the kind, if it's UTC or local, we don't care about that. If on the server, if you look on that value .hour and there was like 14, it will be 14 in the page as well. That was the only way we thought that it didn't break many things, because at the end of the day, what you probably need is if the user writes like the meeting starts at like 14:00, you want to find 14:00 on the other side of this box, and even if you convert it to the UTC and then convert it back, you would probably end up with 14:00, which is what the user wrote there. And this wasn't possible to achieve in other way. So we implemented the serialization to keep the numbers, the digits that you can see on the server and on the client to be in sync. So that's this default behavior. That's why in the view model, I have date time now, which you maybe shouldn't use in your applications, but like if you do, .vvm works fine with that, because now it's 5:13, 5:14, And that's what you see on the page.
Yep.
Exactly what you see, what was on the server. And this assumes that the date is in UTC, but even if the kind would be local, it doesn't care about that. It looks at the numbers. Hour is 5, but it's assumed that it's UTC.
Okay, yeah.
So we are converting it, shifting it by 2 hours, and this happens only on the client. If I open the same thing in a different time zone, then you would see different numbers.
Yeah.
But on the server, it's preserved. Yeah, so like that. And all these controls, it's important. They need to work two ways. So either I can set some value so it gets updated everywhere, or if I try to like increment it just by setting something in the view model, all the pickers need to respond to that. Yeah. That's concern when we will be implementing our own components.
Yeah. So basically, at this point in this version, .vvm is just a translation layer between the .NET type and .NET data.
Yeah.
Forwarding the data to our views, to our HTML, and binding, two-way binding all of the data.
Yeah. And tries to avoid the time zone conversions unless you explicitly opt in for that by using to browser local time.
Yes.
And by the way, in .NET 8, there were new types, date only and time only.
Yes.
And we added support for them in .vvm. So if you want to use just date only for this component, for example, you can, and everything should work.
Okay, yeah.
On the other hand, the time zones like behave a little bit differently on that, because if it's just date without the time information, the time zone doesn't make much sense, and the same applies to time only. So this method is only available on the date time. You cannot find it on time only, because also time only is I don't like its implementation much, because it doesn't support it supports values from 0 to 23, 59, 59, 9999. But like if you, sometimes I need to say it's the midnight, but it's the end of the day, it's the midnight of the next day, but you cannot have time only, which would have 2400. So once you have value that overlaps from your day, you cannot represent it by time only. You need to use time span, which has plenty of other problems. Because it's different. It means something else. It doesn't mean time of the day. It means like some time interval and how long this interval is.
Okay, yeah. And basically, even though we are just a translating layer, we already had to make design decisions based on the non-conformity between those two ways of representing data. So even in a extremely simple scenario, we had to make design decisions.
Yeah, that's a problem, because we used normal, first we used newtons of JSON, then system text JSON, and they look at the kind property of the date time. So we had to implement our own converters and override them to serialize it on our own. And if you ever need to work with .vvm dates in JavaScript, then if you look in the view model, we store the selected date not as a date object in JavaScript, because it's making the time zone conversions. It converts the date to your local time, but we store it as a string in this format. If you need to do anything with the date, we have something like .vvm.serialization, and there are functions parse date and serialize date that you can use to convert the value from date object in JavaScript to this string representation. And here if I say .vvm.state.selected date, and here is a parameter if you want to do the conversion or not, because like if you pass the default, I think that it will
automatically convert,
keep these values, but it will move it to my time zone. So if I say false, if I say true, convert to UTC, so it will move it by 2 hours, so the value in UTC would be preserved. And the serialized date has the same. So you can opt in for the conversion, but by default it will do whatever it can to keep hours, minutes, and seconds as they were when you entered that information.
Okay.
So this is the semantic. If you would be implementing your own JavaScript-based component which works with dates, you would probably need these functions, parse date and serialize date. Don't try to do it yourself, because we did it and then we had to fix it 100 times, so probably that's what would be waiting for you. So these are quite useful methods, and be careful that date only, time only is always stored as a string in the view model, to ensure that it doesn't get converted when we send it to the server and back.
Yeah, so this is actually like one of the rare times where the view model data isn't represented exactly as the view model object, but it's actually translated into a simple string, and we have to do the double conversion then when sending it back. From the string.
The nice thing is that DotVVM handles everything for you, so you don't need to care much unless you start working with the JavaScript side. But on the other hand, there are more differences on the JavaScript side, and sometimes the things don't look exactly like in the C#. For example, if you serialize dictionary, it will not be represented as a JavaScript object with keys and values, because keys can be strings in JavaScript, but in .NET they can be something else. So to preserve that, we serialize the dictionary as an array of pairs, where the key can be Boolean, for example. Or something that even object, then we cannot compare them, but like still it can be represented like that. So that's how we
do it in base.vvm.
Do it in open source .vvm framework without any commercial components.
Yes.
And so
sure, no worries. And for this option was also chosen for Bootstrap 5, which we have up there opened. That's all I wanted to say.
That's why I wanted to say that also. So for Bootstrap 3, 4, and 5, we implemented a bunch of components. These are paid components. If you pay for that package, you will get 3 NuGet packages, one for each version of Bootstrap. So you need to choose which version of Bootstrap you want. Typically, today you would use Bootstrap 5, which is the most modern old school framework but it's the most modern looking old school framework in CSS, something like that. But I like it because still it's a bit nicer than the pure HTML without any styling. It's the easiest way how to use styling. We hope that Tailwind components would be even more successful and popular than Bootstrap, because I think they will be more powerful than what Bootstrap can do. We added a couple of custom things, but overall we tried to match what Bootstrap allows. Sometimes it's a bit restrictive because Bootstrap doesn't solve a lot of things, so we wanted to do that, but we didn't try to make another business pack out of Bootstrap, because that would require implementing a lot of more advanced components. Okay, so we have a date time picker in Bootstrap 5, but because in Bootstrap 3 and 4 we implemented our own date picker, our own implementation in JavaScript with a lot of limitations and things we didn't cover, then we decided, okay, we don't want to copy this old code base to Bootstrap 5. Let's just stick what browsers can do. Hopefully it would be fine. Then we received quite a lot of complaints that we don't like that control, what we can do. And I said, like, sorry, business pack maybe, but like they have their own problems as well. So there is no ideal solution for that.
But for those, like for the Bootstrap controls, we decided to basically stop being opinionated for the Bootstrap 5 and just leave it as is, because it was causing a lot of problems. And we'll take a look at Bootstrap 4 later. So we'll show you the example of how complex these controls can get.
And if you want to do it properly, it's really complex. We even didn't try to do it properly. We tried to have some like minimal subset of things that we think that could be important. And even that was quite complex. So datetime picker in Bootstrap 5, it's just rendered in text box with all these like bells and whistles. We have this extension method which like transforms this datetime picker type to this text box type, which we need to use there, and that's it. It supports min and max values, so if you need to restrict minimum and maximum date, it should work even on input type date, time, local, something like that.
And this, I don't think that's even special because we already, like HTML already has something like that. I think that's just HTML.
Yeah, basic, it's just HTML feature. If you specify min and max, it will work, or it should work. Yeah. So if this is set, we will render this attribute and put there this value and format it. This is format string for the each time. It has to be formatted in this way, and otherwise it would not work. And I'm also think that maybe here is no need for specifying the culture invariant because it will be by default in this select method. I am not sure, but it works. Nobody complained about this particular thing. Maybe nobody ever used that. I don't know. Like it works. However, it's just styled, Bootstrap styled. Yeah, you can see this how to say that, border or the shadow or something like that.
The selected input border. And that's actually what Bootstrap does because they don't really support extreme styling of the control themselves.
Yeah, exactly. But if you click on that, there is the standard UI that browser gives you, and it can look different on each browser. It will not be translated. You cannot specify the format. It also comes from your system settings. So I have US culture, so that's why I have this like month date format. I don't like it, but for other reasons I need to use this culture. So that's it.
Exactly. So it's basically just a styled basic text box. It's nothing fancy. It's the way Bootstrap has been doing this, and we've been breaking it in Bootstrap 4. Because our definition was basically just gluing on top of Bootstrap the different JavaScript pop-ups, and this is the raw native way, basically.
Yeah. So that's how Bootstrap 5 does it, because Bootstrap itself doesn't have a solution for that. So we also don't have solution for that. We use the native HTML control. Let's look at the Bootstrap 4, because the implementation is the same as in Bootstrap 3. It was just copied and adjusted to work with Bootstrap 4. So let's see how it looks in Bootstrap 4. And
basically what we did in Bootstrap 4 was we tried to glue on top of the basic Bootstrap a Bootstrap styled picker, but it was our own JavaScript. And we basically provided the functionality, and then DotVVM provided the binding. So we used a basic input, but on top of that, we added a lot of functionality that's basically a JavaScript module.
Yeah. So this is written as a classic .vvm component, because at that time, composite controls didn't exist.
That's also true,
So like selected date, bindable property, format string, datetime picker, type, it's mode, but like never mind. Changed event handler enabled, pick only. Yeah, if you can type in the text box, or if you have to select from the clickable UI. And then it's adding some Bootstrap script resource, because we need JavaScript for that. And it renders input group, which will just use the text box and icon. That's the Bootstrap way of rendering two components at the same line, called input group. Some decorators around a text box, basically. And here are functions. We declare them virtual, so you can override them and make it your own if you wish. For example, if you want different SVG, like this one, okay. And then we are adding attributes to render, and you can see we are rendering a couple of binding handlers. So this is data attribute specifying the type, and then selected and enabled, and like that. And then there is a JavaScript part, which would be probably somewhere here in the resources folder.
This is also like a historical relic, because this is not the way we write controls anymore, and I haven't seen this in a long time.
Yeah, and I remember writing big part of this code myself. So it was at that time where I didn't know that class is not a good idea in JavaScript. So, but like for the pop-up, I implemented a class that handles all the lifecycle, all these things that it needs. I tried to make it sane, but of course, if you scroll down, you will see it's like 600 lines of code, and we are using jQuery because Bootstrap uses jQuery, so it's like quite ancient solution for this problem. It's by far not complete because we didn't even test it on all possible cultures. I'm sure that someone with culture that differs more from what we are used to would probably struggle. It supports only Gregorian calendars. If you have other calendars, like, sorry, there was like 500 years to adapt, or no, that sounds offensive. Our calendar is not very good, so I actually regret that anyone had to adapt to it. But like, we don't support anything else. This is a minimal implementation. If people need more, we can extend it. That's not a problem. But like, we didn't even get feedback that it's missing. Just like that UI could be better. Yeah, we know that. But like, how can it be better? It's difficult problem to solve. And therefore, sure, we didn't care much about accessibility, so probably this is not correct for the accessibility purposes, and that's a task for maybe at least for some AI to investigate what things we need to change or add to at least be somehow accessible. Like, it's still input, so you can type the date which you want, but there should be probably some area elements to, or attributes to, at least tell the user what's going on, what is this control, and probably handling the key interaction, so you could select the day from the calendar by using keyboard. That's what we don't do here, I believe.
Is also why we chose for Bootstrap 5 to basically don't do this again.
Because this is not a good implementation, actually. And so move it, and
it's a minimal implementation which isn't being evolved over time with the changing nature of our
I would say
internet space.
I would say minimal wrong implementation.
It's the minimal okay implementation, at least,
or okay-ish.
Maybe. And with how rapid the web standard isn't evolving that rapidly, but there have been a lot of changes for accessibility, and they have been reflected within the HTML itself. And it's really hard for us to basically keep up writing our custom ways of handling this. And this is what it looks like.
So it looks like Bootstrap. Again, you can see this shadow, and this is rendered by us. So this is just HTML table we generate. Its contents, like there are things to select months and maybe years. You have to do it like that. I switch the year and it switched the month somehow. But like, otherwise it's fine. It somehow works. And you can also select time. Then it asks you 10 a.m. and you can by 5 minutes, so you cannot say 10:04, but like, not many people need that. So that's, and it there is a test for the changed event handler that is being triggered. So then it's a change because we test that handler. It's still input, so you can type. The value should it should real time reflect what you just did. So that should be pretty. For basic scenarios, it's fine. However, it has its limitations. This could blue background on blue icon on blue background. Like, maybe this is the problem of these samples because it doesn't fit Bootstrap much. I think that's some custom style here in this app.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of events we had to solve. Like if you click outside, then we have to close this pop-up. That's everything is handled by these 600 lines of this code. So
Yeah.
that's Bootstrap. Bootstrap 3 is the same. We just took that implementation and ported it to Bootstrap 4.
Yeah.
And also for Bootstrap, there is another way in .vvm contrib.
Oh,
We
have,
also have another date
control?
time picker. Yeah, we have Bootstrap date picker, and that's a wrapper over this library, Bootstrap date picker. And this, I don't know for which version of Bootstrap it is. It's also quite 3 years ago, not that bad actually. But we are targeting definitely much older version of it. And it allows you, if you don't have Bootstrap controls, but you just want the date picker,
Yeah.
and you want to use normal .vvm framework, then you can use at least that. So this control is just wrapper over this Bootstrap date picker.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
you can use it. And
this is
that should be the most simple implementation of date picker we have,
Okay.
because this script would be, this is the library. It's bundled in the control, and as you can see,
Okay,
it has
yeah,
only
yeah.
60 lines of code, and it's just no code binding handler. So from this you can even understand what's going on, because if you initialize this binding handler on the component, it will look for the parent, do some matching, and then initialize this library handles the change date event. So if you select some date in the library, we will use this .vvm serialization serialize date to convert the date from the component to our format and write it to the view model, call this changed event. If it loses focus, we also want to hotfix. This is probably fixed, but we didn't. Never mind. If you select something and then loses focus, then also we will propagate that to the view model. And if the value is updated in the view model, then we will parse it and then update the control accordingly. So call update value on that.
Yeah, and we should probably also clarify that Bootstrap date picker is a custom JavaScript.
Yeah.
I don't think it's written by us, is it?
No, it's not. It's that external library, Bootstrap date picker. It's external library we took from that repo where we which was linked here in this README. This library. So it's just wrapper over existing library, which is a way how to implement these experiences if you need just one single component. Okay, so even more complicated date picker, the most complex date picker.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay.
Our business spec.
Our business spec date picker. So we need to allow Visual Studio to more time to load that project.
Yeah, basically what we try to achieve with business spec is, as the name suggests, have a full everything you might ever need support. Which means complex controls, complex tables, complex querying handled by us. And business spec is probably the most opinionated package we did ever. And maybe Tailwind will be even less opinionated than business spec, because we try to somehow balance the complexity of business spec, the complexity of maintaining business spec, with also having Tailwind as not just another copy of Bootstrap, but with just different styling, but also have some kind of functionality in the Tailwind itself. So it's a business spec is extremely complex, but it's extremely powerful.
Yeah, the problem is that business spec started with the first version of .vvm, and often we didn't have a feature in .vvm framework, so we implemented it in a business spec. And then framework added that feature later in usually in a more universal way, because business spec implemented some mechanisms just for business spec, but framework tried to implement it for everyone. And then sometimes we port it that functionality, that custom functionality from business spec to use that foundation in framework, but for some components we never did it actually. Yeah, for example, we have repeater in .vvm. It's if you look in the code base of a repeater, it's very complex.
Yeah.
It's a lot of caching, a lot of performance optimizations. It can different rendering for server, for client, so it's complex. And then .vvm grid view uses repeater inside because it's just a repeater building the rows of the table.
Yeah.
However, and that's why grid view in the framework can take advantage of all these performance optimizations we did in a repeater. However, business spec grid view was never ported to that same mechanism.
Yeah.
So we had to copy some features from the framework to business spec because it was different base class, but we never took advantage of these things. So, or maybe I'm not sure, maybe we did that, but it took a couple of years between the framework had it and between it got to business spec. So that's the problem, because business spec is too big, too complex. And
the complexity also is that those two paths diverged. Because business spec has a lot of functionality within the grid view, like automatic filtering, automatic querying on the columns, which .vvm .vvm on its own doesn't have. So they diverged, and .vvm got some nice performance updates, and merging them into business spec would be complex because business spec already had some different functionality that .vvm didn't have. So it was not an easy task to basically take them and make the best out of it.
Yeah. On the other hand, business spec is covered with really a lot of tests.
Yeah.
Couple of thousands of UI tests. When we want to release business spec, it takes hours until these tests go through. And so even if we make some changes in framework, we usually find out quite easily that something was broken in business spec because it's quite well tested. That's at least it's not that all bad. However, like we would need maybe some lightweight business spec, and I hope that Tailwind will become lightweight business spec, because there's a lot of components that are not used very frequently in business spec, but if you use business spec in the application, you get this burden. At least on the server. On the client, we can send small JavaScripts for each component that's supported, but still there is some price for that. Okay, let's look at the date picker. And we have actually date time picker. Sorry, I'm in the wrong project. I need to be in this business spec framework.
So our business spec works very hierarchically. We have date picker, time picker, and date time picker, which implements both of them. Each of them keeps their own data. And date time picker just represents a way for us to merge them together. So
and time picker is here. And they have some base classes, so like because a lot of functionality between them is shared. And it's not that date time picker would be date picker plus time picker. They are combined together. But there is a lot of shared functionality. So there is a hierarchy of quite a lot of base classes. So we have date time picker, and if you can see, it inherits from date time picker base, that inherits from date or time picker base. It's a little bit funny, but like how else you would name it?
Naming is hard.
Let's stick to that. And then this derives from composite HTML control base, which is different composite control that we had in the framework years before we had it in the framework, but it's still there. And we tried for each feature add some special interfaces. So ifocusable control means that the control can get focus and like it's implemented somehow. So these are like layers of functionality that add, and you end up with a date time picker. And then each control has this script. And also the hierarchy here is the same. So date time picker extends date time picker base. That would extend date or time picker base, and like things like that. And basically business spec controls are quite close to the server and client representation of the control are almost one-to-one. So for every property that the server part of the control has, we have this some property represented here, and each control in BusinessPack is a class, so it has its own life cycle.
Yeah.
So we don't write knockout binding handlers; they are generated from this class. Basically, init calls this initialize. Then you have normal properties methods, what you would expect on components. However, it's TypeScript. It's a client-side behavior, and then .vvm BusinessPack just maps the server component to that client object, so you can even call these functions on the control from your JavaScript code, which sometimes it's quite useful thing to do. However, we can sometimes break you because we sometimes refactor. We sometimes refactor that. But you can see there are a lot of methods.
So basically, this is the most complex, but also most complete way to merge client and server functionality together. Because basically the client can do whatever the server can do.
Exactly. There is a lot of complexity here. You can see it's composed with a lot of files. In total, it would have thousands of lines of code. And it's also there is also a control called calendar, which also shares functionality with that, because calendar is just datetime picker without the input and the pop-up. So these controls are composed like datetime picker uses pop-up control inside. It uses calendar, which renders this calendar experience. So it's a lot of complex hierarchy. Even that is not complete. There will be for sure some gaps which we don't handle. On the other hand, like, it's the most complete implementation we have. It supports like restrictions that you can select only business days. You can select dates from some range, and a lot of other things. It supports, for example, this month view, that you may be only able to select a month and not dates inside. So there is a lot of features this has. Also, you can apply some decorators to the days in the picker. So
it's a huge deal of complexity, but it allows you the most to basically do nearly anything with it.
We still have some problems on mobile devices where it's extremely complicated to make date picker right. We could fall back to native input type date, but then you would lose a lot of features. So instead we invested quite a lot of effort in the pop-up control to behave nicely on mobile screens. Still there can be some issues, but we're trying to make it better. So if you have any feedback to that, please let us know. We would like to make it better, and with AI it's easier to make it better than before. It has never been easier to fix issues in BusinessPack when we have the AI, because it can make tests for me. It can discover where the problem is. So there is a lot of
it's really useful for this huge legacy code base, where basically we don't need to do a lot of maintenance. So there isn't like someone who has everything that's BusinessPack in their head, because we don't need to do extreme maintenance. We need to change up a few things few times a year basically. So for those like one-off changes, it's really useful.
There was quite a lot of changes in BusinessPack with the upcoming release of .vvm 5, because we changed a lot of interfaces around grid view dataset. And BusinessPack relies heavily on that. So that triggered a lot of a cascade of things we had to fix. On the other hand, we still think that we didn't make many breaking changes. The biggest project, or which not the biggest customer project, but the biggest internal project we have in our company that is powered by BusinessPack. It still runs on .NET Framework. Not that we wouldn't want to modernize it, but we need to have at least one big project on .NET Framework to make sure that .vvm still works there. So we updated it to .vvm 5 Preview 7, and there were 0 breaking changes, only like one compiler error. but like once it compiled, it worked, and we didn't found any breaking change since there. There were other issues, but not related to .vvm. There were some problems with upgrading Automapper, which we did at the same time, and there were breaking changes.
Okay.
So here we have date time picker, for example. So let's look at the basic one. So you can see it's using Czech culture, because this app is did to test that experience. So we have this experience, and there is a lot of things like I'm now using arrows on the keyboard, and like you can focus on that. There's a lot of complexity you have to implement, and to do these things. So there is also the same thing works in time picker. So like you can play with that. You can use page up, page down doesn't work here. It could probably, AI make page up, page down work in time selection like that. So that's a lot of use cases we have. For example, these restrictions, I hope it will work, but there should be like day in week restrictions. So some days you can disable. So I cannot select Wednesday and Saturday. So like that. Otherwise, daytime range restriction, I'm not sure if it what dates are allowed or not, but probably it will stop me somewhere that I cannot go further.
Maybe
I don't know. It doesn't write what restriction is here. Time range restriction, that would also be something like that. So then there are various types of restrictions which you can choose. There is keyboard use icons and placeholders. So for example, you can customize this like this is AM PM in Czech. So you can convince it to render this, that it's if it's after noon or before noon. So there is odpoledne and dopoledne, these things. Even though we don't use it, you can change icons and these things. I'm not sure if it's possible. You can tweak these icons as well, and have this AMPM. I like it that it's infinite. It never ends. It never ends. It's great. And there were more things to that. And this is combination of like date picker and time picker. So we have the same for date picker, just this experience, or the time picker. Where it is here. So this is and you can select from the format string. It will discover if you allow selecting seconds, and based on that it will render the UI, for example. So basically that's
and also
it.
We have time range. That's also I think we have date range picker
there is date range picker. I'm not sure if this control is supported, because I think that it was never finished, actually.
I think
they're just two connected connected pickers. I believe there are some bugs in that, because we never were really happy with how the control looks like. But for some basic scenarios, it works. You can have it either as two calendars or with this input, and the user should be able to type here. But there were some problems probably. But like it's just two inputs, so you can even control it with the keyboard, which is useful. And there was, I'm not sure if the calendar actually works. No, this is not published. It's internal control. We never found it. We never finished that one to production quality. If you would have preview version of Business Pack, then it would be enabled there. But for public releases, we made it internal, because it's not finished. And actually we never had feedback that somebody needs it. We needed it in one application, then we rendered our own, because there are so many customizations that we would probably not want to have that in a Business Pack. However, then nobody requested finishing that control, so it's still unfinished. If you have a use case for that, just let us know. We can work on it. It should be mostly complete, because it's part of date picker. But it needs some like.
I actually know of a project where I worked where we had a older version of Business Pack, and we actually finished the
Yeah.
implementation. So it's just a basic calendar view. It's nothing extremely fancy,
Mm.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it exists, and it's extremely complex. Everything is extremely complex to, like, not for the end user. That's the nice thing.
Yeah.
We always strive to, on the .html side, to have basically the simplest ever
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So even Business Pack is just BP like
BP date
date
picker, and
picker,
that's it.
and
Yeah,
that's it.
that's what I like the most. Like if you look at the
Yeah.
usage of all .vvm components, it should be, we try to make it as easy as possible. And if IntelliSense works, then like you know what the control supports.
Exactly.
So there's nothing that could be simpler in this scenario. I think that,
exactly. And also, when you use it, you don't see how much complexity is behind it. So that's also useful to see and to explain.
There is a hell
Yes.
hidden underneath that control, but in the markup it looks quite innocent, I would say. Yeah. Okay. So that's the most complex date picker.
Yes.
And let me close this to save some memory. Because Business Pack codebase is really big, and
So,
like,
we decided for the Tailwind controls to basically go back to one of the ideas we were already talking about, and to wrap an existing date picker.
Yeah. And
So
our colleague selected this component, which is quite lightweight. I like that it has only 13 kilobytes of JavaScript. That's quite a nice result, because it's huge complexity, but still, like, we don't want the users to download 1 megabyte of JavaScript because of that. And some components are very like heavy in terms of that, and even the implementation of this component is quite nice. It's modern ECMAScript, not using the old features, not based on jQuery. It's quite nice component,
and it's native. It's not like we're wrapping a complex React system or anything. So it's really nice for our use case.
So it has a lot of features, mostly what we need. There are some complications. But for example, this like when you scroll, it will select for the pop-up if it should appear up or down. Like that should be handled by the component somehow. So there is like, okay, we don't need that maybe, but
that's
like
important.
that's a very important feature. But like, like there is like, why not? Yeah, and also it supports selecting ranges, which we don't have covered in Tailwind controls yet, but that's probably the simplest UI for how to implement that. So probably we will also make wrapper for this. You can also prohibit some ranges. We will probably make wrapper, so we would not need to write a lot of JavaScript for that. Minimum, maximum dates restrictions. What I'm not sure about is this time picker experience, because like it's maybe it could be customized to at least be bigger, and also it would be nice if mouse wheel would move with that. But the fact that I cannot even type here, I think this could be improved. But maybe we can help the authors of the library to somehow improve it. We will see.
I actually really like our Business Pack approach with the scroll bars. It's like the most like drop down looking like stuff. Which
and the mobile pickers look similar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like that, you can customize what is in these cells. So that's also quite useful. So it has quite a lot of features, and even these buttons can be also very useful, because I can imagine like last month or like last invoice period. There is a lot of things that in business applications you probably need. So like making your own buttons, that is quite nice. So this component has a lot of features, and we implemented a wrapper, or not we, AI implemented a wrapper over this component, and we still need to do code review, because there can be quite a lot of code that is actually not used or could be done in a more simple way. However, we managed to get it quite easily to the state where it would work. The problem, there is also a lot of complexity because this component can work with date formats, but they are using different format strings than we are used to in .NET. So I asked AI to transform .NET format strings to the format strings that the control uses, so not all tokens are supported, but these common, which you probably use, are supported in that control. So you can use .NET format string and it should work with this component. That's one of the things that adds quite a lot of complexity. So that's and here is how the component looks like. So as you can see, it's styled by our colleague to look consistent with the Tailwind UI. It respects the colors which you specified as primary, and like we can see, it works. And also we had to a little bit ask AI to update the implementation, so I could type. You can see there is also keyboard interactions, but if I click in the input, that it should allow me to move my cursor, not like that. So this is probably what will need to be selected. But if I start typing, it should work. Just the key arrows don't work. That's what we will have to fix somehow. But if I type a date, you can see it was written in the view model, and then the control is updated to reflect on that. So that's that should be probably fine, and it seems to be working.
And as we've seen, the reason why we chose this is basically this entire path we took from designing our own, dealing with the issues, and dealing with the complications of maintaining our own solution, to basically go and try to rely on a pre-made solution that's customizable. It's not a native HTML solution, but it is enough, covering enough of the stuff we needed, like the accessibility and everything. And also something that's a bit more nicer than the basic HTML, and something that the problem is that it's not under our control, but also there is not much that you can do with datetime picker that could damage anything. So it's not like a new version will come out and suddenly everything breaks. It's probably gonna be a very stable control, and
we need to test it properly on mobile devices, because that can also add a lot of things which we need to address somehow. But it supports cultures. So here it's localized in Czech language, here it's in English, and everything works. It should also, I'm not sure if this respects the first day of week, because I'm actually not using an US culture. I use my own culture that is an US, but with Monday as a first day of week. So it takes it from the system probably, but I need to somehow check that this would also work. And we are also it supports placeholder, so if nothing is selected, there is this placeholder. So there is quite a lot of features. We need to make sure that we cover everything, but so far there will be some basic implementation in the first version of Tailwind controls, which we want to release as soon as possible.
Yes.
Hopefully next week. I don't want to promise, but
I hope so.
It's almost ready. There are 5 last pull requests that we need to verify. Then ask AI to look in the documentation if it's correct, and then we will publish it as a preview version. Then after going through the feedback, then we will release it as a stable together with .vvm 5. So this is and how this looks like
Yeah, let's
The
take a look at how
implementation,
we wrap the
I'm still not
JavaScript.
very happy with the implementation because
It's quite verbose.
it's an example of AI slop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
because it's a lot of code, and it's difficult to put it in the state that there is not any extra line of code that would not be necessary.
Yeah.
Because like if I start with an empty screen and write code, I try to write as less code as possible.
Yeah,
Not literally as less code, but like to it needs to be sane. It needs to, for every line, you should be aware of why it is there.
Exactly.
And in this AI generated code, a lot of time you wonder, okay, why is this that much defensive? Why is that much complicated? This is duplication of things that were handled somewhere else. It probably doesn't hurt anything to have it there, but the code is difficult to maintain. So it needs more iterations to clean that up. And once you get it working, once you cover it with tests, then it's easier to ask AI, okay, I think this is too complicated, try to simplify it. And you have a test, so make sure that it will not stop working. Yeah.
That's also like one of the things I struggle with when, for example, like last time we were designing UI for something.
Yeah.
And it always puts too much text there.
Yeah.
I always like to do, like for a mobile application, a very minimal UI, because the operator of the UI of the mobile application doesn't need any flavor text.
Yeah.
It's so unnecessary to have any flavor text.
Functionality. Yeah. It's also you need to, I guess, fine tune agents MD or like these instructions or choose a model which is not that talkative.
Yeah.
Some like model that can respond in like one sentence or less. Things like that. Yeah. However, if we look in this datetime picker control, it's universal, so it's single control. You need to select if you want date, time, or both.
Yeah.
And then there are like selected value, which is quite understandable what it means. Min date, max date to make restrictions on the range from which you can choose. Min hours, max hours, it's if you don't want the users to select all day but just the working hours, for example, then you can use that. Hour step, minute step, if you want 5-minute steps or things like that. These are the format strings for date and time, and not all tokens are supported, so you need to stick to just these which should be supported, and there should be, I ask AI make tests for these transforms of these format strings, so like hope at least it will be stable. We will not change the functionality. Placeholder text culture, input size, because Tailwind controls, all controls can have a couple of sizes, and if it's enabled or not, that's hidden in this datetime picker capability, which contains all these things. And then in Tailwind, we have for each component, we have two versions, either standalone control or a form field that is that control with some label and validation and these bells and whistles. So we have also datetime picker form field, and internally it's using the same capability. It will render the input, but it renders the
labels,
things around that. Yeah, and the datetime picker, that's it. It uses this helper to build the internal input, and this is where most of the AI slop comes, I guess, because this is like too verbose. I think that could be simplified somehow, and because even, for example, these set attribute functions, it knows that if you pass null, it will not do anything, but AI didn't know that, so this if is unnecessary.
It might actually be fun to do something after we fix this, to do something like AI code review live on stream and showcase the differences between a cleanly written code and like how to quickly spot AI slop.
This is also very defensive, and it could be just one line, because this is value or binding. So if you can use not, which will, or negate, which will do negate binding, and then you just can say set attribute, put there value or binding, and it will handle it itself. AI doesn't know that, so I was thinking about making the final prompt that will ask, look for this pattern and replace it with that, because it's not necessary. So that will be final stage, because I want to do it on all controls at the same time before we release it. If I do it now, then it would generate more code, more controls, and repeat that pattern. So I need to make the code base to become stable and then make these bigger refactorings. The most important thing is that it composes this binding group and then renders this binding handler. Here you can see the conversions for the format, and it's not that simple.
Why is R using E? Is it some kind of standard?
I'm not sure what it. In JavaScript they probably use E for something.
Okay, yeah.
For the weekdays in .NET, if you say DDDD, it's the weekday name of the weekday, but they have different token for that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the reason. Here it implemented some helper functions, which also I believe they are not necessary.
Yeah.
If they are necessary, they should be in some extension methods to be shared with all controls. But because each control was created by separate agent session, then it doesn't know about these things. So it's creating, I believe, in other controls we would have similar helper methods. So another round to simplify all these things that's needed.
That's also one of the things I like to do when juniors write code with AI, a stability pass. Basically go over a very subjective example and subjectively write like, okay, this is not how we write things, this is not what we are supposed to do, and then based on that perform a full stability check against entire data, like code base, and check everything if it supports our rules.
The nice thing is that if you have enough tests
to
verify that it works, then you can you don't need to do this refactoring in the beginning. Because does it matter if the code is difficult to maintain if there are no bugs and you will never need to touch it? Well, I think it's sometimes, but like
the
you need the code to be maintainable at the moment when you start editing it.
Well,
So like if you achieve it to work, you verify at least roughly that there are not performance security issues and things like that, which in date picker control probably I cannot imagine many security issues there. Then like I think that it's still important to think about these things, but sometimes you can say, okay, this is good enough. I could refactor it, so it would not be 200 lines of code, but 100 lines of code. Will I ever edit that code manually? Or is the control complete, fully functional? Maybe there will be no requirements. It's fine. Then I can refactor it as part of new requirements. But once you are happy with that, maybe you can use this effort to improve something else in the code base. There will definitely be something else to improve.
I don't think about it as, oh, I'm gonna maintain it with AI, so I don't need to maintain it. But I like the humane maintainability. So if it's enough for like other team members to understand this part of code, then it's enough. Like if we all understand what it's supposed to do and what it means, then I'm happy with it. If it's like some kind of complex verbose process where it takes me half a day to explain to someone what it actually does within the complex process, then it probably needs some kind of refactoring at least.
I think it's just about the good enough
line,
because even the perfect code, it will never be perfect. If you show me any code, I will find something that could be refactored, something that could be simplified probably. So everything could be improved, and it was always about where is the line when it doesn't make sense to invest more in that because it's good enough. I think that in scenarios like that, this line get a little bit lower because you can be okay with more things than before the AI. But like still, I don't think that it doesn't matter the code quality because AI will be touching the code, not me.
Yeah.
That's definitely not true. You need to be aware of what is in your code base. You need to understand that, and you should be able to explain every line, or at least to have clear vision what you should do with this line if you want to refactor it.
Yes.
Then it's fine. Yeah. This is imports for all the cultures that we support. Then like it could be done probably a different way, but never mind. Like this is exactly what the kind of refactoring I will not bother with. If I would have to write this by hand, I would find some for loop or some expression that would generate that. But if AI, no worries, like no problem.
And also it's quite easily explainable.
Exactly, you can see what it does, so not many effort needed for that.
The only thing I would like think before is, will there ever be more cultures which we need to support? Because then some kind of reflection and for loop over all of the locales might work. But when has ever a new culture for date time picking appeared? Is also a question.
The library can accept some community contribution with more cultures. AI can provide these cultures easily. So we would have to add. I think if you ask AI agent, okay, there was new culture in the library, add it to our culture, our library, it will not make mistake in that. Like there are some cultures to be removed, for example. I don't want to support this one, maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know if we want to be that opinionated.
We are opinionated. Okay, so there are function for detect locali, resolve locali. This is probably not. This is an example of too defensive code, because like .vvm will give us locali in like one exact place and it will always be there. So like to have these functions, it's not that necessary. Either the control will specify it or we will find it in .vvm, and like looking at document language, it can be even more confusing. So this will definitely need to be fixed because .vvm has a function that provides locali and it's always there. It will always it will work 100% of the time. So like that could save these two functions. Then this is just TypeScript definitions of types. That's good because then we have IntelliSense. There again, like .vvm serialization parse date will always be there. So this try catch and defensive over that function that will always be there. It's probably not needed. So these two functions again, that could be simplified. But like that's it's fine. It's like that because I can test it. I can make UI tests for that, and once I'm happy with the behavior, I can optimize this code base to be more efficient. Parse min-max.vvm date.
That's something that's now more supported than before, like the more exploratory kind of writing. Even though it's not good now, this is not something that's shipping today. It's something that's gonna be shipped eventually when it's done. So for this case, it's fine to explore and see what our options are.
This is also interesting because date time picker min date max date is date time. So like the value will probably never be equal to today. So like this could also be removed. We don't support that. Calculate today, send it to the control. There will be a lot of things like that. Unwrap option, that's some helper function, just again too defensive maybe. So that's how it works. However, there is the resolve picker config. Whenever any parameter of the component changes, then it will call this function and it resolve the parameters, the options for the air date picker control. So it will like prepare this object. So I'm calling it basically whenever min date changes max date, these things, and then it will update the configuration of this control. Then some helper functions like format native value. We will have to investigate what it means when we need that. Parse native input value, it's important. If you type in the input, then it should somehow parse it. However, .vvm probably has a function for that because textbox is doing the same. So again, we can tell the agent, okay, this is in .vvm textbox, find it, do it the same way, reuse it, what is there. Yeah.
Basically, all this shows us is that they need more context about what .vvm can actually do.
Yeah, but like for the first implementation, if it works, then like we can start. It's a starting point.
It's a start,
yeah. Get token handler. This is also for the parsing because the control has some format string and now it needs to parse the control. So it basically wrote its own parsing engine for these things because probably the control didn't have it. They had just the formatting. So I have date and I need to parse it from this control format string. And if I ask it to send the original format string, then it could also use function we already have in .vvm. So like that, these kind of things, if I know the code base, I can easily in one sentence ask AI agent changes, and that could be simplified a lot. So like, but it solved the problem. Parse formatted value, this is the parsing of the formatted value. I think we can remove these 200 lines of code if we do a tiny change, send one extra value with the control, so we can reuse function we already have in .vvm. So like that. However, it has like 600 lines of code. And basically, that's it's doing what it should do. The most important thing here at the end is this binding handler, datetime picker handler in it, and in the init phase, it will either, if it's mobile device, it will initialize the native picker and don't use that control at all. And I have to verify if this works, but somehow it detects mobile device and it will not initialize this JavaScript control at all. Maybe it's not necessary. Maybe the controls is doing the same inside. We have to verify that. Otherwise, it will initialize the configuration, parse some attributes. I am not sure if this is even used somewhere in the framework. It's used only in JavaScript, but not in the control. So the control never emits these attributes. So we can remove this as well. And then it's positioning the calendar, which maybe it's required.
I think we are really nicely prepared for AI code review.
That's true. That could be a next episode when we will use AI to refactor these things, or
not even like after we refactor it, we can do a diff and see
what we did,
and explain why.
And here it creates this air date picker control, passes the options, that gets the local position calendar. That is the function that returns where the calendar should be. And then if something is selected, it will propagate it to the view model. So it created a lot of functions to be quite defensive. Maybe they are not important. However, like we will have to investigate further. If it changes in the view model, we have to reflect it in the control, either clear the value or parse it, normalize it, and select date. This line I actually had to add myself because AI didn't figure out that if you select the date in the calendar, it will reflect it, but it will not switch the view on which page of the calendar you are looking. Because it's different information. You can have selected a date in February, but switch the calendar to show March. So these are two different parameters, and it was setting only one and not the other one. And there is another place where this was the same situation. So I had to add manually these two lines. The rest was generated by AI, and it works mostly. We have to fix the keyboard navigation when the input has focus, but probably maybe somebody already solved that problem. So I will use AI. It would search the web if it finds some issue, some way how to fix it or figure it out.
And also one of the things that kind of scares me is that this is a wrapper around an existing datetime picker, and it already has more lines than our custom build for the Bootstrap.
So
that maybe also is a sign for less code and less functionality, maybe. Even like, yeah.
But on
it's
the
a lot
other
of
hand,
stuff.
like first 100
Exactly,
lines
yeah.
of codes are deslocalized, which
Yeah.
could be, it's not a problem.
That's true.
Then there
yeah.
are TypeScript definitions, which is like also 50 lines of code, something like that. Then a lot of, I think it could be compressed to half of that without losing anything, actually.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think I would start with adding more tests,
Yep.
covering the functionality we want to preserve, and then ask AI to refactor these things so we would achieve quite small control, because maybe this is more than 13 kilobytes, which the control itself has. So like maybe our wrapper around it is bigger than the control itself, which is, it is scary.
Yeah, but the reason we chose this is that we basically
didn't want to implement our own.
Yeah, again.
Yeah,
we didn't want to do it again.
Yeah, we did it many times. Like it took us almost 1 year to implement business backdate because it's huge. You saw how many layers are there. So like we didn't want to repeat that, because if you want to do it properly, it's not easy at all.
Yeah.
I don't know why like we don't have just like number of the day in the year, if we must have years bound to some like how quickly some piece of rock in the universe orbits around other piece of a little bit bigger rock in the universe. But like why we can't just have the number of the day, and maybe like now it could be like 0.8. Yeah, because like one midnight would be 0, the other midnight would be 1. We could do that. I think it would be nice.
I think that French people already tried that. I've heard it on the start of the stream.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I know. It's dangerous to suggest like improvements of the calendar. You can end up like that. But maybe, I don't know. I'm still confused why we stick to this very difficult concept. Maybe one last thing. I remembered one really crazy thing.
And also imagine like dealing with airline data. That's like flying around the world. Each part of the world has the different time zone.
JavaScript API is quite weird because months are indexed from 0 and not from 1. So if I want 1st January of 1891, I need to say like 0. First 0. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. But like what is important here is that you see this time zone offset?
Is it 57 minutes?
57 minutes to UTC. And we found it when we were writing tests for this date serialization in .vvm. And my colleague, he used some framework that generates like a lot of test cases with random values to make it deterministic. And we had a problem that date was 3 minutes off when we serialize it and deserialize it. And it was 3 minutes off. And we were using binary search to find where this lines up. So here, the world is normal, like 1 hour difference. So between 1891 and 1892, time shifts by 3 minutes. Yeah. And so like let's use half of the year is like 7. So like let's use 6. Here it's normal. So like 81. It's not normal.
It's weird,
So now we need 9.
It's
normal. It's normal. So like between 6 and 9, or like in real world between 7 and 10 months, and actually it broke up on 1st this September, I believe, because here it's already broken. So it's,
I think it's September.
So if I use the last September, which is 30, it's still broken. And this will be, so like first
9th month,
10th month. It's crazy because JavaScript. If I like put like 0 hours, 0 minutes, and -1 second. You see, it's
So something happened on September.
you see now it's
30th.
normal. On 1st October
Yeah.
1891, the time shifted by 3 minutes. Yeah.
And that's your fun fact
And
for the day.
I found the reason.
Is there a reason?
Yeah, there is.
actually?
Of course, there is a reason. Like at the time, 1891, in
Okay.
Czech Republic, there was no Czech Republic. It was
Yeah.
Austro-Hungarian Empire. And before time zones, each city was using local time based on when the sun is directly above you.
Yeah.
So, like Prague and Vienna are like 3 minutes of the sun time. Like the time in Prague, the sun is there 3 minutes later
Yeah.
than in Vienna, because Vienna is more to the east, but it's considered West Europe, and Prague is considered East Europe. But like, no problem. So they decided, because Prague is almost on 15 latitude.
Yeah.
Not longitude, just the other.
Yeah, latitude. Yeah.
The x x coordinate of Prague is 15 degrees. Yeah, almost. So like it made sense to use the Prague time instead of Vienna time. So
Yeah.
that's why the time shifted by 3 minutes from Vienna to Prague, because the time zones actually started becoming important only when people invented trains, which could travel faster than horses. With horses, you didn't care about 3 minutes. And probably the horse, I don't know if the horse can go from Prague to Vienna. You need to switch horses on the way, I guess. Because it's like 300 kilometers,
So is there
300,
actually
something
any
like that.
historical decision, like a contract written that from today on we are gonna use a 3-minute different time that can be traced back?
I found some like old newspaper articles that like the railroad company of Austro-Hungarian Empire is switching from the Vienna time to Prague time on this very date, 1st October of 1891. So like even JavaScript knows about that. Yeah. That's why calendars and date times are crazy, and please never implement your own unless you want to join our team. If you want to implement these things, maybe you should write us and we can hire you for these crazy moments of fun.
Yeah, there's always a daytime picker to implement out there in the world. A new one appears every day.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it for today's episode. Next time, what we said we will do.
Well, we can do the AIPR.
Yeah.
Basically checking what we changed to make the code more stable.
Yeah.
Or we can also take a look at how we approach writing controls for .vvm Tailwind, and how we already did a video about how it changed, how we basically how we developed controls before and how we do them now. But we can do a deep dive into the today's method, and also I will have some very fun like reactivity information, because I'm currently working on a very reactive application with .vvm, which uses a lot of JavaScript within .vvm controls. So it might be a fun time thinking about how to make controls that are nicely reactive.
Okay, great. So, and if you have any ideas what you want to hear from us, just send us messages and comments, and subscribe to our channel. And every month we are doing these streams, so like next time we can talk about the topic you select.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, and see you next time with Tom
and Dave.